6 to 8 weeks off work, having been exhausted by the stresses of trying to fix Lloyd's. He's never discussed this, but following the recent suicide of a Swiss business leader, some fear life at the top is too gruelling.
First, I think leadership is by nature a lonely thing. Not in terms of the way that you lead banks and companies, because at least is my strong belief that you should lead by hiring the best people, creating the strongest possible team. But when you have to make tough decisions, especially relating to strategy or to specific, very, very important issues, you have to take them in the end alone.
TSB, the bank that wants to say yes.
The creation of new TSB, which will be the 8th biggest bank in Britain, is a big moment in British banking, because Lloyds couldn't say no when ordered to break itself up. Robert Peston, BBC News.
Campaigners for and against Scottish independence have clashed over the future of North Sea oil. The Chancellor, George Osborne, flew to a production platform off Aberdeen to warn that the industry would be destabilised if Scotland left the UK. The SNP said oil could help the country thrive. Our Scotland correspondent James Cook has been looking at the arguments.
It's a mighty industry, but for most of us, oil and gas is drilled out of sight and out of mind. Today, the Chancellor flew 130 miles out from Aberdeen to see production for himself. Scottish nationalists say the North Sea would be a big bonus for an independent Scotland. So does George Osborne agree?
I'm not saying it's a bad asset of Scotland, I'm saying it would be an even greater asset as part of the United Kingdom. And let me give you a simple example. The tax breaks we've announced, they amount to £20 billion of tax breaks for this industry so they can produce more oil and gas and pay us all more revenue. That £20 billion tax break just wouldn't be affordable for an independent Scotland.
Either way, the glory days of the North Sea are gone. Production has peaked and extracting oil and gas is getting tougher. But money is being poured in. Here on Montrose Alpha, they're expanding, creating 2,000 jobs. They reckon another 100 million barrels will keep them going until at least 2030.
Out here in the North Sea, there's no sense at all that this is an industry slowing down. Since the oil boom began in the 1970s, companies here have got better and better at extracting as much of the black gold as possible.
Welcome back.
In Edinburgh today, the focus was on other matters, as the Scottish Government outlined its plans for the year ahead. These ministers say they're better than the UK Chancellor at assessing Scotland's priorities.
George Osborne is the Chancellor that just a couple of years ago executed a £2 billion raid on the oil industry. We, as the Scottish Government, would ensure stability for the oil sector, but we would also ensure that the revenues that come from the oil sector are properly stewarded.
For now, oil workers have more pressing concerns about helicopter safety. The Chancellor made a point of flying on a Super Puma today, but next year, this industry will be right at the heart of the battle for Scotland. James Cook, BBC News, on Montrose Alpha in the North Sea.
It's one of the hottest bits of real estate in central London, but the new skyscraper is proving a little bit too hot for its neighbours. Nicknamed the walkie-talkie because of its distinctive shape, the side of the 37-storey building has been reflecting the sun's rays in such a way that it's apparently melted a parked car below. John Brain is there for us now. John.
Well, George, earlier today it was almost unbearable to stand here because the temperatures were just so high. All to do with this new skyscraper. As you say, it's been nicknamed the walkie-talkie, but critics around here say it's causing so many problems it should be known as the walkie-scorchy. A glittering addition to London's skyline, or a giant magnifying glass scorching everyone and everything that crosses its path. A concentrated beam of the sun's rays is being reflected from the so-called walkie-talkie building onto the street below. Martin Lindsay parked his Jaguar opposite the skyscraper. When he returned 2 hours later, he found a woman taking a photograph of his vehicle.
I said, well, you know, what are you doing? And they said, have you seen what's happened to your car? So I said, oh, crikey, you know, that's unbelievable. I wonder how's that happened, you know. And she said, I think it's something to do with the reflection of the building.
But it's the local businesses that have been feeling the full glare of the new building.
My colleague realised there was smoke coming out, he smelled it. I looked back, the carpet was on fire, and the front door as well, the wooden top bits. And we all walked outside, but it was boiling hot there in the fire as well. We tried to cut it down, we did, and then we realised it was from the big building.
Light came out from this building, and this one, it actually broke. Yeah, and all the paint, it has been melted, you see. Yeah, and then we realized it was that building, because that building, the shape is like this, right? And then when the sun comes, it will go straight to our shop, and that's why we have a concentration of light here.
Well, it's just after 1 o'clock in the afternoon and the sun has hit the walkie-talkie, making the heat down here almost unbearable. We've had temperatures of up to 50 degrees Celsius in the last few minutes, and when I just look at the current temperature, well, it's still 42 degrees. It's all become a subject of fascination and experimentation as people try and make sense of it all.
Now the building is huge, that means there's a vast amount of light energy, solar energy going in, and it's being focused down onto a point. It's just like using a magnifying glass to burn things, but unfortunately you're not burning paper or wood to start a fire, you're actually burning buildings and people down here. It is ridiculously hot down here.
The developers say they are confident of finding a solution, and after all, within a few weeks, it's unlikely the sunshine will still be causing problems. Well, one possible solution they're looking at is to put some sort of screen around the worst affected area of the building. But this is one of those rare occasions where the owners of a building don't want a hot property.
John, thank you. And well, talking about the sun, what about the weather? Matt Taylor's here. Hello.
Thank you, Joshua. That same sun has been warming things up quite nicely across the UK as well. Not just cars, and it will warm things up further. In fact, during the next few days, with plenty of sunshine still around, but could summer be about to melt away, because by the weekend, drastic changes for just about all of us, with some wet weather on the way. Now tonight, the only sign of wet weather is approaching weather front very close to the Hebrides. Most will be dry, clear skies to start the night, but some mist and fog.